What is up, Only Playbook fans? We are back, episode 50, the half-century mark. Guys, we're here. How quickly it comes. We're the Only Playbook. I'm Sweetkar Shovit. Happy 50, half-century. It's a cricket term. I don't know if many people will get that, so whatever.
This is our 50th episode?
Yeah, 50th at 5-0.
Damn, cool.
Doesn't that feel like that happened so quickly? Where the hell else? What were we talking about all those other episodes?
Probably football, if I had to guess.
Damn. Because we are, in fact, the Only Playbook. Now, again, appreciate you guys joining in. Special episode today. This is the first time we're going to try something a little bit new. If you listen to the last couple of episodes, you know that we're doing some off-season outlook stuff. If you enjoy any of our content, we appreciate all the support in all of our social media, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok at the Only Playbook. And if you're watching on YouTube. If you're listening to probably on Spotify, Google, Apple, or if you're crazy, Anchor FM even. So I appreciate all the support thus far, guys. Keep it coming. This has been a treat. With that being said, again, this episode is going to be special. We have the offseason outlook for the NFC and the AFC South divisions, and we are going to bring a couple of guests. We have two different friends that are big diehard fans of a couple of these teams we want to talk about. So we want to get some outside perspective and some input, kind of see kind of their homer bias come into play and us kind of from a neutral third party, see kind of how that collides. So it's going to be really exciting. We're super excited about it. Shove it. Let's jump right into it. So the first team on the board, we're going to start off with the NFC South. Again, from shittiest to best, right? So the first team on the board is none other than the Carolina Panthers. My buddy Jake Finchum should be hopping on here with us any moment. Big diehard Panthers fan, grew up in North Carolina. So we're going to be super excited to hear kind of what he has to say. He's a huge Cam Newton fan, as is most Panthers fans. So just get ready for all of that to come out. And shine brightly. I wouldn't be surprised if he thinks Cam deserves an extension. But without further ado, it looks like we have Jake on. Jake, can you hear us? I can't see him.
Jacob.
Oh, technical difficulties. That was bound to happen, meaning this is the first time we're trying it. So let's give it a second anyways, but I'll keep talking about the Panthers, right? Panthers were last in the division. They were 5-12 last year, 2-4 divisional record, minus 100 point differential. So scoring points was a problem and giving up points clearly was not for the opposing team. So a really, really tough season for them. Jake, let's try this again. Second time's a charm.
Not bad. I don't know what happened there.
No, you're good. You're good. Can you hear us?
What's up, guys? Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you loud and clear. Again, Shovit, this is my buddy Jake. Jake, for the audience, for as much as I've told them, is you are a diehard Panthers fan, but I kind of want you to take it away, and I don't want to steal your thunder. So give us a little bit of a background on you, how you became a Panthers fan, and kind of where your head's at right now.
Yeah, first off, I wanted to say I wish you would have started this in 2015 when we were in prime Cam Newton era. Would have been a lot more fun to come on here and talk about the Panthers.
I feel that.
But no, I started going to games when I was probably like 4 or 5 years old. I grew up in North Carolina, so I've been going to Panther games forever. Back when Jake Delhomme was the quarterback, taking us.
Yes, daylight come and you got a Delhomme, baby.
Yeah, got to, dude. That was the guy for a while. Cam Newton era was a great time. And now we're here.
Top 3 Panthers of all time. Go.
Top 3 Panthers?
Yeah.
In my lifetime?
In your lifetime.
Probably Steve Smith would be my number 1 Panther of all time. Number 2 is probably Luke Kuechly. And then I think you got to put Cam Newton in that conversation.
Sure.
Just
That's an admirable list.
Yeah, that's probably the top 3 guys I would have gone with in our lifetime as well. I mean, those are guys that put an imprint on the franchise, even football as a whole, right? So, yeah, and what I noticed about that, Jake, is you said, and we're here, and there was like a huge drop off in like your excitement with 2022. So I think your headspace and the Panthers fan base as a whole probably share the same sentiment. I know you and I were talking a lot during the season and how, we talked about how maybe Matt Rule is done, though he's kind of lost the locker room. But we're, starting this season, if you will, the new league year started and he's still the head coach. So from what from where they were, if he had lost the locker room, how does a team come back together under a coach for a whole new year and still function? And not to mention they have Sam Darnold.
That's what I was going to say, dude. That's what makes it tough is, a lot of times that coach you can bridge that gap if the quarterback's good enough to take control of the team.
Mm-hmm.
But really are the two options we're looking at right now, since Watson's off the table, is either starting Sam Darnold or taking a shot on one of these rookie quarterbacks that haven't looked spectacular by any means. And so, it's going to be tough. I think the defense is going to have to carry. They have been for the last really 2 years. And I think we do have the defense to where we could be competitive. But, this is a good time in the NFC South where I think we should have been making a lot of moves, and we've not. With the exception of Brady coming back, which was unfortunate for us. But you look at the Saints, without Drew Brees, just not the same football team. They're still good. Falcons, they just look like a disaster. So, this would be a great time for the Panthers to capitalize. And, one of my notes I took, it was what offseason? We're just...
Yeah, I mean, so you guys chime in here at any moment, but the Panthers still have $23 million in cap space. The problem is so many free agents are off the table, and you're spot on in the fact that, last year when they made that trade for Stephon Gilmore, the three of us were talking about, okay, it looks like the Panthers are really, really trying to win now. Like maybe they know how good their defense is, and Stephon Gilmore, somebody that would take them over the top. And you're right. Like the edge rushers, the linebackers, the cornerbacks, they're all still there for this year. So there is still a window of opportunity, specifically, not just your division, but the entire conference in the NFC got weaker in the offseason, right? So there are times for, Cinderella teams or teams that maybe are under the radar to make a splash this year, but it is probably disappointing to see that you're losing so many free agents, yet there has been little addition that really makes a valuable impact. And so, I'm right there with you in that, it seemed like an opportunity for them to jump in and try to compete, but it doesn't seem like they've made enough moves to really lead the fan base to believe that.
Yeah. And I know you and I about it at work and stuff as well. And, we feel like we're really an offensive line and a quarterback away from being an actual contender.
Yeah.
If you look at the defensive team with Shaq Thompson, who a lot of people forget played safety at Washington before he got drafted. Dude can fly and plays line for us. He's all over the place. Brian Burns, I think one of the top 10 edge rushers in the NFL right now, is just completely unstoppable. We did lose Reddick, which hurts quite a bit. But then told you my bold prediction for the year, now that we're talking about the defense, is I think that Jeremy Chin is going to be a top 5 safety in the NFL at the end of this season.
Wow. Any reasoning behind that besides just like your own emotional homer bias?
Yeah, no. If you look at the top 5 safeties in the league, I was doing a little bit of research before this. A lot of people talk about Jesse Bates for the Bengals as one of the top safeties. You look at it, he had 88 tackles last year. Jeremy Chin had 102 tackles. We look at interceptions, they both had 1. Pass deflections, Chin had 5, Bates had 4. He's flying under the radar and putting up incredible stats in a second season in the NFL. I think that he's still got a lot of room to jump up, and he's not just playing safety. This is somebody that we bring in for sub linebacker packages. He comes up and plays slot corner. We even bring him off the edge because we know
he had that 2-score game when he was coming off the edge that one game.
Yeah. So
but don't you think it a little bit has to do with the Panthers defense being on the field so much? Kind of inflates the defensive stats a little bit there.
That definitely doesn't hurt. I mean, he's on the field quite a bit, but I think if you watch enough of him playing, you see a lot of I wrote down a comparison. I really don't, not saying he's going to be as good as this player, but when you watch him play, a lot of the tendencies are like what Ed Reed did. The guy can fly, he can hit hard, and he's always around the football.
Okay.
And as he progresses, gets older, starts to see the game a little better, he's going to really come on.
That's a big name, Ed Reed.
Yeah, I mean, not saying he's going to get to that status, but they play a similar style of football.
I guess you did say bold prediction, so that is as bold as it's going to get. But no, I like where your head's at. I mean, you have to have those aspirations, and it's always nice to have building blocks in young players that showcase the ability to take the next step and still haven't reached their untapped potential. So, I mean, again, at least there's something to look forward to. What do you think? I mean, let me ask you, who's going to be the starting quarterback come week 1? What's your prediction?
So I think there are 2 ways we could take this. I was thinking about it earlier. Number 1 is if we pick at 6, we have to take a tackle. I don't think there is any other way to go for this draft. There are 3 good tackles that I think go in the top 10. One of them has to be to Carolina. if that's the case, we probably are going to end up rolling out Sam Darnold. I mean, for a $20 million contract, we aren't wanting to sign an additional quarterback to eat up that cap we have. So, I think you just use him as the bridge quarterback. Prior to the injury to start the year, he wasn't horrible. We started 3-1. He had some good plays. He could be serviceable for a year. Or we could look to trade back with a team like the Eagles if they found a good asset there. If we could pick up 2 picks in the late first round, I think you may see the Panthers pick up a wide receiver and a quarterback.
Okay.
No, that makes dog agrees with you there.
No, that's good. That's really good stuff. Shova, you got anything for Jake?
Yeah, I mean, I think that you guys can't shy away from Malik Mills as a quarterback option there. I think that he could be a good replacement once this Sam Darnold experience is over. I mean, given that you've already have faith in that defense, I think that, getting a guy like Malik Mills may be a good answer there. Yeah.
Malik Willis. Yeah. No, dude, I mean, that was the first thought, Jake, is this is a team that took Cam Newton. So it would not shock me if this team surprises people and takes a guy like Malik Willis, a guy with tremendous amount of upside. Like you said, you still have Darnold there. So if he needs to be the bridge quarterback for a year, I don't know how much Malik Willis can learn from Sam Darnold, but at least he's there while Malik Willis is progressing behind the scenes. But that's a guy that is very, very high risk. I mean, I guess medium risk, but there's really, really high reward there with all the Josh Allen comparisons. So I don't know if you get 2 draft picks or you have kind of a way to pay for the future. It wouldn't be the worst thing to me if they took a shot at a quarterback.
Yeah. I think the big concern I have for taking a quarterback is just what we've seen in the past with terrible offensive lines, really ruining good quarterbacks. I think you can look at, not to say that Johnny Manziel or any of those guys the Browns drafted would have been good, but I don't think they even got the shot because they were just getting punished. And we saw that all year with the Panthers, with all of our quarterbacks, Cam Newton, Sam Darnold, PJ Walker, whoever was back there, you're going to be punished. And so without addressing offensive line, I think we're putting somebody like Malik Willis in a bad situation where there's a good chance he could get hurt out there playing football for the Panthers this year, honestly. So addressing that left tackle, we have Taylor Moton on the other side. We have a good right tackle. We need somebody to cover the blind side first. And then, I would be fine with us taking a quarterback, even I know it might not be popular, but a guy like Sam Howell in the top of the second round, a guy we could maybe mold local, went to UNC Chapel Hill, keep him in North Carolina and, see if we could mold him after a year of sitting and watching Darnold. So.
Okay. Yeah, no, again, I think all really, really great stuff. It's nice to tap into the mind of a actual fan of the team. And, I like that you're very level-headed and logical in your thinking and not taking a lot of emotion into it because it's such an emotional sport. And when you have this diehard fandom, it's so easy to get emotional, right? So I appreciate the very, very, high-level thought process behind all of this. Jake, any final words about your team on the Only Playbook here?
Yeah, I was going to say, here's some emotion for you to end it, actually.
I love this.
We would rather sign Cam Newton, let us lose 17 games, than see Sam Darnold play. So,
dude, spoken like the absolute epitome of a Panthers fan and specifically a Cam Newton fan, man. I mean, again, that would make watching the Panthers probably much more enjoyable. So amazing way to end things. Jake, thank you so much for hopping on, man. Hopefully we can do this again. Go Panthers, bro. I'm rooting for
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys. Go Panthers.
Absolutely. Jake Finchum, appreciate you joining us and diving into the Panthers. This is probably more than the regular amount of Panthers talk we'd probably see on the Only Playbook. Do you guys have any final thoughts on the Carolina Panthers this offseason and kind of what you can take away for them heading into 2022?
Yeah, I got one. You could do something with CMC while you still have him. We don't know. They don't know how much longer they have him. And, running backs aren't as valuable as people may think they are, but there are a few that are, special. And CMC, you could get some picks out of this. Unfortunately, they have been vocal about CMC getting traded. It's just that no one's biting.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think they just restructured his contract. So they saved like 5.5 million, like literally maybe a couple hours ago. So it's good for the Panthers to at least head in that direction, but let's screw the Panthers. Let's jump over to the next team here. Moving on to the second team in the NFC South, we have none other than the Atlanta Falcons. And joining us is probably the biggest Falcons fan I've ever met. I was introduced to you from Shishot. So Shishot, I'm going to let you take this away first before we give Dheeraj the spotlight.
Yeah. Just some info about Dheeraj to start off some things. His favorite player, who's your favorite Falcon of all time? Is it Julio?
It was, yeah.
It was Julio. Yeah. So big Julio Jones fans. He's a classic Falcons fan here. Just a lot of mouthing, not enough results.
I think that can be said for all our teams, except for the ones that have won Super Bowls. And I
agree.
I think is it Shovit? That's a Steelers fan, right?
Steelers, yeah.
So
I can back up
any kind of shit talk,
Yeah. Agreed.
Absolutely.
So Dheeraj also leads the league in amount of F words thrown towards Patriots fans. So
definitely true.
Yeah. So he because 28-3 just lives on forever now. Now that Tom Brady's gonna make a movie out of it.
You know what rhymes with 28-3?
What?
PTSD.
Oh no. Yeah, it's very real. PTSD is very real.
That one hurt.
But, okay, so let's talk some football. Last season you guys were 7-10, 2-4 in the division, and your point differential was -146. Just defense wasn't doing anything, and offense couldn't put up points outside of the guy named CPAT. So, with this minimum cap space now, you did get rid of Matt Ryan. There's a new quarterback at helm. What are the moves you want to make? Are you happy with some of the moves that have been made? And tell us about your draft strategy.
I think realistically, we have to either draft or sign a wide receiver. There's no talent at the wide receiver position. We lost Russell Gage. So on offense, I think that's one of the main positions to target, whether it is free agency or the draft. If I had to put like a bet on it, I would probably say that would happen through the draft, because you don't want to waste free agency capital with the limited cap space. Another position is linebacker, because we lost Foye Oluokun to the Jags. And for whatever reason, Deion Jones had decided to have the worst fucking season of his career last year. So it was pretty disappointing to watch, but I really thought maybe they would re-sign Foye and move on from Deion Jones, but that didn't happen. Also got rid of Dante Fowler. We've always needed pass rush help, but I don't know, man. We swing and miss in terms of drafting pass rushers, except for, I guess, Vic Beasley, but then he's not even in the league anymore.
So you sound like a very defeated fan. And the words you used a couple of days ago in our group chat was, this may be the first year I don't watch any Falcons games. And that was right after the Marcus Mariota trade. I thought that was a pretty good trade. I was telling these guys they should trade for him, and in a matter of hours it happened. I kind of like the move with Cordell Patterson in the backfield. They're going to go with more of a trickery approach, and I think that's it's a nice change of pace in the world of the Falcons.
I think the familiarity Arthur Smith has with Marcus Mariota is going to play a huge role, or did play a huge role in acquiring him. There's a reason he was a first overall pick. So obviously the talent's there. And I mean, second, sorry.
Winston was first, I believe, that year.
Oh, what a terrible draft. Like, that says it all. Like, who are these fucking GMs? But the talent is there. I really like Arthur Smith to extract as much as he can from Marcus Mariota. Obviously, I think you'll see him on the move a lot, like, bootlegs, keepers, everything and anything possible. I'm cautiously optimistic. The track record isn't great, but I'm cautiously optimistic about Marcus Mariota. I was actually curious. I think Ryan Tannehill, his first year was like when he got there and he had the, mid-career transformation. Everybody kind of took him seriously again. I think LaFleur was the offensive coordinator the first year, and then it was Arthur Smith.
Arthur Smith. Yeah.
If I remember correctly. But again, I'm very disappointed we didn't get Deshaun Watson. I will say that.
If you heard what Shishot said the last episode or the end of it, he said we might have somebody joining us in a Deshaun Watson jersey. And I was listening to it today and I was like, man, you're just gonna be so sad.
I'm not gonna lie. I bought into all the hype. I usually don't get that crazy about it, but I mean, come on, man. The Browns, though, this is where quarterback careers go to die.
It's a different time, man. It's a different time with the Browns, but I'm with you because the way the whole thing transpired was really, really like deceiving because the Browns were out of it. Deshaun Watson literally said the Browns are out of it. And the final two teams were the Saints and Falcons. And with all of the ATL recruiting and nothing coming from New Orleans, I felt like the writing was on the wall. Like we were talking last episode, like, all right, this is it. Watson's going to be a Falcon. He's going to have that ATL. Shobit talked about how much money he's going to drop at the strip clubs there. So like we were already mentally prepared for that. And I can only imagine for a fan to be mentally prepared from like post Matt Ryan era and to have somebody like Deshaun Watson only for that to slip away.
On top of that, he's literally my favorite quarterback in the NFL right now.
Really?
So, yeah. He's been my favorite quarterback in the NFL for maybe the past 3 years. I'm always, banging on the Deshaun Watson drum. But it really baffles me. Like, but I mean, I get it right now. If you look at talent and if you look at what Cleveland has comprised, they're way more ready to win than we are.
Oh, absolutely. They were a quarterback away last year and Baker was the problem.
Right. And I mean, I don't like, I get it, but it's just like the Cleveland Browns historically are a terrible franchise. I mean, maybe he can go there and transform.
He's the one.
That's why I compared him to LeBron.
Dude, like, you're absolutely right.
Like he could change the fortunes of Cleveland football.
I'm with you, dude. This is I've been saying like this guy is just as good as Mahomes. He has every talent Mahomes has, right? Except he's a little bit faster and he's a little bit stronger. So it's like,
right, exactly.
Like we've seen what he can do, and it's not even just the play style. It's the mindset, like the plays that he just doesn't give up on. He
tries to attack every play, like
right.
And I really like he's an aggressive downfield thrower, and like he's not gonna just take what the defense gives him. Right or wrong, he's gonna force the issue, and he's thrown some bad picks for that. I won't deny that.
Yeah, but having an offensive line like the Browns and having those two running backs back there, and now you have Amari Cooper and some bunch of randos. That's a lot of numbers he's gonna put.
Right. I will. Another thing I'll add. I'm going all over the place, and
you're good. Let's reel it back in from imagination world because Watson's not coming, so that's over. Let's talk about what is here, Dheeraj. How can you be optimistic with what you have?
Well, okay. So offensively, there really aren't many pieces. I'm not gonna lie. This is probably the worst offensive.
You're not lying.
Like
it's very much
Falcons team I've seen since like Joey Harrington.
Ooh, damn. Oregon boy. Another Oregon quarterback.
We're going to get the ball and we're going to win. Was that him?
I think that was like 2007 when
Matt Hasselbeck.
When Bobby Petrino dipped out after like a week.
Yeah.
But the Falcons are pretty bad. They're a bad team. I mean, like when you look at the stats and
like I'm usually like a homer, and I'll try to like sugarcoat it or something. Right now, I can't really sugarcoat anything because offensively. I prefer the offensive side of the game. Not that defense isn't important and it's not exciting to me, but like I feel like as the NFL moves forward, I think offense is more important. Definitively. But talent wise, we're just so decimated. Like, and then Calvin Ridley decided to go make parlays, and now he's out for the year. Like, we drafted this bum when he was fucking 25. Now he's what, 28? He's already old. Sorry, that's just me.
No,
tell us about which non-bums you're looking for in this upcoming draft.
I really haven't paid much attention to the draft, to be honest, yet. And
with the 8th overall pick, no paying attention. I mean, I guess there's really no way to go wrong with what to draft because you need so much help all over the field. I mean, it seems like a best available at 8 at this point.
Yeah, that's the smart way to go. If we can get like from my Georgia boys,
Dean.
Yeah. Nakobe Dean. Oh my God, Nakobe Dean would be a perfect replacement for Foye Oluokun. If we could get Jordan Davis, even that might be a little high.
That's too high for Jordan Davis.
I mean,
great combine, but let's be real here.
Or the other guy, what's his name? He ran a 4.7. He's like 290. I'm trying to think of.
I thought that was Jordan Davis. Is that not Jordan Davis?
Jordan Davis is 6'6", 340 and ran a 4.72.
Okay, no. So that's who I was thinking of. Yeah, no, that is who I was thinking of. So I don't know who the other guy you're thinking of.
Here, I'll look him up right now.
But Chauvin, I feel like you were going to say something earlier. Go ahead.
Yeah, I know. I mean, they're a pretty bad team in terms of like, pass block, run block. On the offensive side, that's pretty bad. And then they were 28th and 29th in the league last year. And in terms of like the defensive, getting to the quarterback, getting to the running backs, they can't even do that. So their pass rushing and their just their run explosion is just terrible. So I think that getting a linebacker is probably going to be more important. I know that flashy, like getting receivers, and that seems as like the fun way to go. But with the team that needs help everywhere and they're in this rebuilding aspect, I think that maybe an edge rusher, somewhere on the defense to fix that pass rushing a little.
I would love an edge rusher. I would love an edge rusher. We've attempted multiple times to draft edge rushers, but it's gone piss poor. If I can be completely honest, there's no sugarcoating that. Like we tried with Vic Beasley, we tried with Tack McKinley. I think the last time
Abraham is Abraham the last good defensive end?
Get out of my mouth. Like when we signed John Abraham, we had Patrick Kearney too.
Yeah, he was a stud as well.
Yeah, and that was supposed to be our big bookend defensive ends. We're gonna have a solid defense. Patrick Kearney got hurt, and then John Abraham left, and then John Abraham,
he went and did some Bollywood movies or something, right? No, that's a different John Abraham, I think.
It's pretty good. You know what's funny? Every time you Google John Abraham, that's who pops up. Kind of
before the football player John Abraham.
Relevant than second all-time forced fumbles, John Abraham.
Only you would know that. That's awesome, though.
Yeah.
No, I mean, you're like a embodiment of how I felt like Atlanta Falcon fans currently felt. And I think you're helping bring that to life because it is the fucking reality, man. I mean, you guys had an era with Matt Ryan where it was like, it was fun and you guys got close and like it was consistently competitive, right? It was consistently competitive. And that's nice. Like that's where franchises want to be. But at some point you're like, how the hell do you get over that hump and actually win the big dance? And it's like right now you're almost in like salary cap purgatory. You're like roster is so decimated. So it's like, dude, I just need like one sliver of hope or glimmer of hope to be let's just run with that.
I've never felt this bad about a Falcons team going into the season than I ever have, to be quite honest. I really don't know. I mean, I can see Marcus Mariota.
Yeah, this is a safe space. It's okay.
I can see Marcus Mariota having a decent season. It's gonna his ability to scramble and get out the pocket and run. It's gonna take some pressure off the offensive line, definitely. I'm not gonna say Matt Ryan is mobile and he wasn't part of the reason that that the offense wasn't performing at a certain level. I'm also pretty disappointed about the compensation we got, to be honest. Like a third, and they didn't take anything
cap.
Yeah, eating any of that money. So it's like,
shoot, the dead cap space that the Falcons are incurring is astronomical. I think it's the most all time.
It is.
Is it?
I think it's literally the
most. 47 million is the worst.
The fucking
dead
Aints
cap space.
do this annually. Mickey Loomis probably pays Roger Goodell under the table. He has to. There's no way they make the cap every year, and then they somehow sign one big free agent. I don't get it.
I don't.
That's okay.
that there is a rumor that the cap is a myth, and it's like, dude, how many times can you fucking backload contracts? Like you're paying Patrick Mahomes like $12 this year and like $15 next year, only to pay him 60 mil like when he's 40. Like, come on, man. Like doesn't seem fair.
Right. I think what you're seeing now with the Falcons is an attitude of going all in for many years with the same core, and finally the core has now like outlasted, like it's gotten old. You get like, you can't do anything about it, and instead of replacing pieces as we go, now we're having to replace everything, and it's not an easy situation to be in, for sure.
Go ahead.
Oh, no. I was just saying some closing remarks, nothing else.
Yeah. I was going to say, Dheeraj, let's turn the page on the shittiness. Give other Falcon fans any sort of hope you can for the future.
I mean, we have a second team All-Pro in AJ Terrell.
He's a
we
stud.
have a brilliant defensive mind in Dean Pease. We have one of the most innovative offensive minds in Arthur Smith. I like the coaching staff. I trust in them. I know they don't want to be shit, but I think they recognize with like the limitations they have that expectations have to be tempered, I mean, best case scenario, maybe we fuck around and go 9-8. I don't know, 8-9,
7 playoff teams now.
Exactly.
And it is the NFC. Anybody can win in the NFC nowadays.
Right, exactly. And we need. I'm interested to see Kyle Pitts' evolution. One touchdown was pretty poor, I'm not gonna lie, but he's a game-breaking talent.
100% offensive weapon, that you don't usually see tight ends get drafted 4th overall, and usually you're not missing on a draft pick. That's that, like a tight end that early is not a draft pick you miss on. So the talent level is absolutely there. It was just really disappointing to see, whether it was Pitts being young and like trying to adapt to the NFL, or their inability to just get him the football. Like force a guy that talented. I don't care if you're throwing interceptions, if you're at least forcing him the football, because that's your best opportunity to win. And it felt like at times they just were not going to him. I don't know if you can speak more to that, or if you saw the same.
I mean, I witnessed a lot of the same, and people said a lot of the same about Julio Jones and his red zone inefficiency. Yeah. And for whatever reason, I don't know if it's because of Matt Ryan as a quarterback. I don't know if it's the play calling. It also baffles me, to be honest. Because why not take a force a fade or a slant inside throw when you have a big body receiver, Like I definitely feel like we have to utilize him more in the red zone. I think another thing you guys should maybe consider is we have 2 draft picks, 2 second-round picks this year. So, maybe and 2 third-rounders, I think now. So if there's a player that slides late into the first, I could totally see us moving up and putting a package together if that's going to address the need. And like, I don't ever like drafting by need, to be honest. I feel like a lot of the times GMs who draft by need lose their jobs within 5 to 7 years.
Yeah, there's an opportunity to reach because you feel like you have to fill that position, and then you leave, you forego, like a transcendent talent like a Randy Moss or something, because you're like, oh, we didn't need a receiver. So
right.
No, I'm absolutely with you. Anything else you guys got for Dheeraj?
No, just get ready for a lot of shit talking here in the next couple of days. Your ears will start bleeding.
I'm ready for it. I mean, at this point, I'm defeated. Like, I really don't have any like fight left in me.
Dude, your attitude is making me really want to root for the Falcons now, because I need you to get out of this fucking.
Hey, anybody who wants to hop on the bandwagon,
just wait till this guy has like 1 or 2 shots.
You'll remember these times.
Yeah, I know, absolutely, dude. I'm absolutely rooting for the Falcons. Thank you so much for jumping on, man. Hopefully we can do this again. And any other Falcon insight throughout the season that you want to provide us, or shit we say that you're like, dude, they don't know the Falcons. I know the Falcons. Feel free to let us know and jump on again, man. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me, and I would love to do that. We'll definitely discuss that. Thank you.
Absolutely. Have a good one, man.
Bye, guys.
Later, bro.
The Falcons, Dheeraj, the embodiment of the Falcons as a fan base. I mean, again, it was picture perfect of like how, like every time we asked him, give us some optimism, it was just like, like, you know, there's just like deep sighs and it's hard to come up with things. And like, you're seeing that from a fucking Homer diehard fan, you know, people that have things to latch onto. And if somebody like him doesn't, then yeah, it tells us everything we need to know about where the Falcons organization is. And I think one of the things he said is exactly how I felt, is that they're the embodiment of a team that, you know, had a core that was very, very competitive. They had a huge window. And I mean, you know, if at least they got to the Super Bowl, but they never won. But I would say for that core, the Julio, the Matt Ryan, that core, I mean, overall is probably a successful core. You would have liked to have won a Super Bowl, but they were competitive. They made the Super Bowl. So it's just time to turn the page and flip the corner, if you will. Yeah. And I think trading Matt Ryan, even though I think one day he signs a one-day contract and then retires a Falcon because it seems to make sense. I think it was time to trade Matt Ryan. And I think the reason we know that it was time, even for the organization, is the fact that they were willing to still take on his $47 million, dude. The Colts didn't have to take any of it. So it's like, dude, we're going to take all of it. You just take the quarterback. So, you know, it's just one of those things. It's business, that the window closed and you turn the page. So, no, I think that was really, really good stuff. But we spent so much time talking about shit teams. Like, let's get to some better teams here. The New Orleans Saints were the second team in the NFC South last year. Not a great team overall, finished 9-8, 4-2 in the division. They did have a point differential, positive 29. So I guess that's something to show for it. They current standing guys have $26 million still in cap space. I think their biggest cap hits next year are going to be Michael Thomas, who's a huge question mark. Like, I don't like, dude, where's that guy been? Like, I don't, is he going to be ready to play this year? Like, is his career done? I know nothing about that guy. And then obviously Cam Jordan at 12.4 million, but this is a team that I think we know, you know, life after Drew Brees has not been fun. I mean, and I think that's realistic for any franchise when you lose a Hall of Fame quarterback. But, you know, the Taysom Hill overpaying, where I think they talked to him, they said this year that Taysom Hill is not going to play quarterback for them. So like, why did you pay somebody that much money to play like 7 snaps? And then they did re-sign Jameis Winston. So I don't know, like this team is all over the place. You know, what are you guys reading into their offseason moves and how they look to tackle next year?
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest things was their crazy high salary cap, right? They were down. So they've done some good work there. They've restructured their contracts of Michael Thomas, Andrews Pete, and Ryan Ramsey.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they restructured their contracts. So that's good. And I'm sure they'll be making more moves to get some more space to sign some of the draft picks. They signed safety Marcus May and signed defensive lineman Contavious Street, who's reunited with his defensive line coach, Ryan Nielsen from North Carolina State or NC State. So those are some moves that they've had to make, but they also need to address, like you said, the quarterback situation. Jameis Winston, is he the guy or what do you do there? Right. And there's not any quarterbacks right now in the free agency that you can go out and get, or anyone that you can trade for, Baker Mayfield or Jameis Winston. I mean, I would personally rather have Jameis Winston over.
It doesn't move the needle enough to make the trade.
Yeah, exactly. And now you've lost Terran Armstead for your offensive lineman. So who are you going to get from that in that sense? Maybe go out and get someone from the draft. There's this draft class is there's a lot of depth as far as offensive lineman goes. And then the last thing that they need to figure out is the wide receiver core. Probably someone that they're going to go out and draft as well. I wonder if like a guy like MVS would be someone that they can try to go out and pick up, because as last year, I mean, it was just who was going to get the ball. Like Callaway, we thought Callaway was going to be number 1 receiver, and he kind of really didn't show up much of the season. So there's a lot to address there on the offensive side. And so I'm assuming that they're going to try to use a draft to handle some of their wide receiver and offensive line situation that they've come across.
Yeah, you pretty much covered all of it. But a couple things. The defense was formidable, right? It got the job done. It got them to a positive win-loss record. Because it clearly wasn't the offense, and they lose some key places on top of that, right? Like losing Armstead is no joke. This is not a small feat that you can recover from. The only people you can replace him is like, 3 other players. That's it. So it's like, and they're all superstars on a different team. You're not going to do a better job than you did with Armstead unless you draft some stud. So they're kind of screwed there, and they just lost Marcus Williams too and went to the Ravens. So, these big name players on this team that were kind of holding on the Saints from drowning are now gone. And now Winston's coming back. You're going to get more turnovers. Kamara's in purgatory. You don't know how many games he's going to play. Punching.
He probably wants out. Yeah.
Yeah, he probably does. Why would he want to waste his last few years of prime playing there when he's going to get hate? It's time for a fresh new start, and it's just a lot of chaos right now. This team is in. We think this defense can still hold it together, but they've lost enough pieces on both sides to kind of go on a steep decline. Only thing positive here is Sean Payton. Sean Payton still there.
No, he took a year off.
Sorry. Yeah, he took a year off. Sorry. The defensive guy.
Dennis Allen
Allen is now there. So the philosophy of the defense still stays the same, right? So maybe they'll find a way to plug in the holes and stay alive, but I don't see staying alive as the way to win this division, because a guy named Tom Brady's back and he's recruiting everything already. He's getting their whole offense back already. Even Fournette signed earlier today. They're just getting the gang back together, and they're going to start throwing 40 touchdowns a game. Can you do that, Saints? Can you even throw, or not a game, sorry, a season? So the way the Saints season is looking, they're not in a position to keep up with 158 point differentials. They were at a 29 point differential on the positive end, but 29 versus 158. Some things here and there, like they were the Achilles heel for the Buccaneers and all that good stuff, but you're not going to be winning very many games to even make those 2 wins against the Buccaneers,
matter.
Matter. So at the end of the day, this Saints team has declined significantly. It's a whole new process to get back to where they were. And even getting back to where they were is not good enough. They need to be better. They need to make bigger changes. And I'm not sure if they're going to do that in time.
Yeah, the team, the roster is a nightmare on the offensive side, right? Like you said, you have one receiver that was dependable at one time, and now I don't know where the hell he is. That's actually a great match to me, MVS, because he's a deep threat. And what does Jameis Winston like to do? He just fucking throws bombs. I feel like that's kind of a match made in heaven, to be honest with you. But like that's it. We're talking Jameis Winston to MVS as a match made in heaven for the Saints. Like that's spells 5 and 12, like that has 5 and 12 written all over it, so it's like, dude, I don't know.
That's also the number of completions per attempt that they're gonna have.
100%. I feel like the Saints and Falcons both got to this point differently, but they're both like turning the page on like a formidable chapter in the franchise with the Matt Ryans, with the Drew Breeses. And now it's just living in this hell till you find the next quarterback, or till, Sean Payton comes back, which I don't think he will, but there's going to be some silver lining. It's just not there right now. So this seems like they're going to be similar to last year, maybe worse. Like the defense is going to have to carry. They're going to have to carry Marcus May replacing Marcus Williams. Like who knows where that scale is going to land between now and the end of next season. But I think outside of that, it's almost pretty similar to who they had last year. So if the draft helps on offense or defense or whatever, I think 9-8 or 8-9 or 7-10 seems kind of like right where the Saints are going to fall next year too. Because
and don't forget about their play caller, Quan Alexander.
Yep.
I'm not sure what's going to happen with him either. He's probably going to come back, but that's another big piece.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big piece for the defense. So I don't know. It's tough to be a Saints fan right now. Again, I have another buddy named Jake at work who's a Saints fan. And he was like, the first thing he asked me today was like, why the hell did we sign Jameis Winston to a 2-year contract? And I'm like, dude, I have no idea. So, I mean, again, it's the revolving theme of like, when you don't have one of the elite quarterbacks, you're just like searching through this like trash of like, treasure, which you're not going to find. And so, you feel for the Saints, but at the same time, they had their time. They won a Super Bowl in 2009, and this is just kind of the downward of this, the market of the Saints as a whole, I guess. So enough about the Saints. Let's jump to the best team. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Tom Brady are going to be back for another season. Brady's retirement was 2 weeks long? I mean, shortest retirement in history, maybe. 13-4, the Bucs were last year with Tom Brady. They were the number 2 seed in the NFC, 4-2 in their division. Shishot, you mentioned it, 158-point differential. So that's going to spell 13 wins. I mean, that the proof is in the pudding there. So you talked about it earlier. Brady's back. Brady has brought back a lot of the core that's been the team for the last several years. Ryan Jensen at center, Carlton Davis, their cornerbacks back. They reached a deal with Chris Godwin, and they lost Antonio Brown, but like Dheeraj mentioned, Russell Gage is gone from Atlanta, and now he is with the Bucs. So, the team is pretty much constructed the same way they were when they even won a Super Bowl 2 years ago, and when they were, very close last year. So, the division got worse, the conference got worse. I mean, is there really anything stopping Tom Brady to another Super Bowl path?
Yeah, no, I mean, you're absolutely right. When you have Tom Brady and as the guy under the center, that you have a chance to get to the Super Bowl, or at least in playoffs for sure. And then the sky's the limit from there, right? They've added some key additions with Russell Gage, for receiver from the Atlanta Falcons, after losing Antonio Brown. So Evans, Godwin's coming back, and now you have a 3 in Russell Gage. So that is not going to make up for Antonio Brown being gone, but definitely, if anything happens as far as injuries goes, you have Russell Gage. They added Shaq Mason from the Patriots. One thing that Brady loves is a good offensive lineman, because he needs that protection. And they were able to keep their center, Ryan Jensen, and also get Shaq Mason. So I think that they're out there with the mentality they want to win it all next year. And you mentioned that Leonard Fournette is going to come back to the Buccaneers as well. So, this team, with all the pieces kind of still there that got them as far as they did last year, I think that they have a legitimate chance of making it all the way and being able to overcome the Los Angeles Rams this time around to get to that promised land.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they're playing in this division who is just collapsing, right? Like, there's no way they don't win this division unless something magical happens and we see the, new resurgence of whoever the heck, name a player. So chances are looking like the Buccaneers are going to win this division. And who are they competing with in the NFC? The Rams and the Packers. That's it. As far as strength of, schedule, as far as, the core parts of each team, it's a mess. NFC is a mess right now. And even the Packers lost Devontae Adams. So now you're looking at Buccaneers repeating. I don't know what the Vegas odds are right now, but if the Buccaneers are not 1 or 2 in the NFC as far as, best record, I don't know what they're doing over there. So this is about as easy of a call as you can make. They're going to make the playoffs just because of this division situation, unless something happens with Brady, but anybody else on this team is replaceable. And as long as they have this method, this TB12 method, they're going to make the playoffs. They're just going to make the playoffs. That's what he does. And he's got Giselle making all these crazy potions at home. So, there's no reason to assume that the Buccaneers will be worse, even if they lost a couple of key players. They've added things really quickly. They're working around the cap because Brady does stuff like that. And, and they got a good amount of draft picks, for somebody that doesn't really need to go for big names. They have, 6 picks. They can kind of fill in certain holes. And I have a feeling they're still not done making all the moves, unlike some of these other teams that we've talked about. So they're doing what they have to do. They're getting key pieces back. They know they have a pretty easy way to get to the playoffs in the division. So they're kind of keeping that core together because, history repeats itself. If they can win with this squad, last year going 13-14, they can probably do it again, and they can probably win the division, having all these other weaker teams in the division. So Buccaneers, it's a pretty much shoe-in for them to make the playoffs.
Yeah, they did a good job of replacing all of their offseason departures with like pretty much formidable replacements, right? Alex Kappa goes to the Bengals. They trade for Shaq Mason. Jordan Whitehead goes to the Jets. They bring Logan Ryan back. And then you had OJ Howard leave for the Bills. And you guys saw the video where they recorded Gronkowski at like a barbershop, but they're like, "You're coming back, right?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm just giving Tom Brady a little bit of a hard time. He kept us waiting. So I figured I'd do the same." So it's like pretty much set in stone that Gronk's going to be back as well. So it's like they did a really, really good job of everything they lost. They pretty much replaced it. And then again, they added Russell Gage, who's replacing Antonio Brown. So it's exactly that. They're running it back, little tweaks here and there, but the core is still the same. And every other team in the conference and the division got worse. So again, unless Brady gets hurt, they're a shoe-in for the playoffs. They're a shoe-in for a top two seed, I'd say, in the NFC. And right now, I bet if I pull up Vegas odds, they're probably top 3 in terms of Super Bowl champs. So the Buccaneers have a really, really good gig. And I think that's maybe a lot of those pieces that were in play in the offseason were the reason why Tom Brady came back. He was like watching the NFC deteriorate. And he was like, you know what? I could probably run this thing back. And so let's just hope, as much as some people may hate Tom Brady, whatever, like the dude's the GOAT, the dude has, the most Super Bowls, blah, blah, blah. Like I would hate for his career to end because he had some sort of a freak injury. So that's the one thing is like, you keep coming back every year. Like how many more times are you going to put your body on the line when you're pushing 50, bro? And again, the fountain of youth can only help for so long. So, again, it's good for Bucs fans, whatever, another year to be competitive and possibly win a Super Bowl. So let's see if any other team can knock them off. Cause again, otherwise their path is pretty damn easy. Let's jump over to the AFC. Enough of the NFC talk. The Jacksonville Jaguars, the epitome of a team that proves that the salary cap is a myth because it felt like they spent $1 trillion this offseason. I think they got every free agent possible, and rightfully so. The team was absolutely atrocious last year, 3-14, 1-5 divisional record, should show negative 204 point differential. I think that starts to add up when Trevor Lawrence goes 9 games without throwing a touchdown pass, right? I mean,
that was one of the best parts of last year was just getting on Trevor Lawrence.
His run of not throwing a touchdown pass when you're a goddamn quarterback. So, I mean, again, that is the story of the Jags last year, the Urban Meyer bullshit, all of that. They need help. I mean, no move is a wrong move for them this offseason. And again, they went out and spent a shit ton of money. What's funny is they still have $8 million in cap space, but let's look at, they went out and paid Christian Kirk a shit ton of money. They went out and got Zay Jones, Evan Ingram. They got a guard, Brandon Scherf. They got the linebacker from the Falcons that Dheeraj was just talking about. Cornerback Darius Williams leaves the Rams and comes here. And then they signed a defensive tackle, Foley Fatsukasi. So you're looking at a team that literally bought half of the free agent market. So it's the good thing is they had the money to spend and they really, really needed to improve. And obviously with all of these additions, you have to assume they're going to improve, but is there still a number one receiver on this roster? Is Trevor Lawrence still have enough actual talent around him to be competitive, or are these all just moves to make moves because you had money?
Yeah, I mean, that's the interesting part. They had so much money they could have tried to get some, A-level receivers, and they ended up getting B- and C receivers, basically receivers that haven't really proven themselves as with the opportunities that they had, like Christian Kirk. I like Zay Jones, but he still hasn't proved himself to be a valid number 2 receiver even, right? Evan Ingram, I mean, we've shat on that guy so much. If you have him on fantasy football, he hasn't done anything for the Giants even with so many high hopes. Did the Jags get better? Yes. Could they have done more with their money? I think that they definitely could have. They still have Laquan. They kept Laquan Treadwell. They did the franchise tag on Cam Robinson, the offensive tackle, to keep make sure that the offensive line is still good. And they have the number 1 draft pick. So with that, I could see them trying to get an edge rusher. Aiden Hutchinson is the guy that is number 1 probably on that list. There's a tackle opportunity that they can get in Evan Neal. So it'll be interesting to see whether they go the defensive route or the offensive lineman route. But it seems like they just kind of did enough to get just a little bit better. But I don't know if those are the right moves or not.
Yeah. So what I think, what my analogy is for this offseason for the Jaguars? It's like when you're in the 8th grade and your mom goes and buys all your clothes for you. And you're just forced to wear them, right? Marvin Jones, Christian Kirk, Laviska Shenault, Laquan Treadwell, Zay Jones, and Jamal Agnew. Those are C-, C+, maybe a B- in there with Christian Kirk. That's fine. Maybe you can build a team like the replacements and do something with it, but you just got one of the best, possible future quarterbacks of all time, one of the most hyped up future quarterbacks of all time. And you thought that maybe you shouldn't get an A in there somewhere? You thought maybe running it back with Marvin Jones, Laviska Shenault, and Laquan Treadwell was the answer? Maybe it wasn't.
That's some Jinko jean shit, man. That's if your mom went out and bought you some Jinko jean shit.
Jinko jeans.
It's funny because I think I was in 8th grade and my mom bought me a bunch of Cowboys gear to put in my room. And I'm like, I'm not even a Cowboys fan. What are you doing? This is how I feel that what the Jaguars basically just did.
Yeah. This is a clear-cut example of having too much money at a young age and then just splurging. Like I have analogies for days for this offseason for the Jaguars. Again, this is not the way to do it. They're trying to be mediocre instead of trying to be best. They're taking small steps at a time rather than taking a big leap. How often do you get back-to-back number one picks? That rarely ever happens. And you want to stay in this mediocre world. You have so much talent as far as like drafting all these young people. And you're going to, the people that are going to be scoring the touchdowns should not have the name Evan Ingram within that group. What are you doing? What are you doing? You had all this money. You're slowly running out of money. And all you've done is a few here and there, add linebackers and a few cornerbacks and a few defensive tackles. But, I love Zay Jones. I liked him as a number 4 receiver for the Bills. I liked him as a number 3 to 4 receiver for the Raiders. But, you're playing with a bunch of weaker people. Like these guys going up against a couple of good cornerbacks, we're going to be dealing with less than 4 touchdowns, less than 4 weeks of touchdowns again with Trevor Lawrence. So I am not a fan of what's going on. They're going to go from 3-14 to 6 and whatever. So it's like, God, like something's wrong there. And I don't think it was just the coach last year. There's a lot of, maybe it is a GM issue. Maybe they do need to figure something out. I'm looking too much into the future right now because I can't predict what's going to happen. I just see what's in front of me. And this does not seem like a playoff team even now after all these moves. So maybe the number 1 draft pick will change some things. I don't know. And I don't know why you're not making more moves with this money. Maybe they're waiting for the draft to trade down. I don't know, but I'm not liking what I'm seeing so far.
The only thing I could think of is maybe the players that are out in the free agency, like guys like Allen Robinson are like, I don't want to go to the Jaguars. Like,
he's already lived that nightmare. Yeah. He played for the Jags. He's like, fuck that shit.
Yeah, they just need to maybe get a little bit better next year so that they can convince other stars to come to the Jaguars. I'm thinking that maybe that's the only reason why they went out got the players that they could get.
Yeah,
dude. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, who's the middle linebacker for the Seahawks? What's his name?
Bobby
Wagner. He's at the tail end of his career. They need some linebacker help. They lost Miles Jack. Why not go to a team like this, kind of help this like weak ass franchise learn how to play defense and then slowly set off to the sunset in Florida and retire. You know what I mean? Like seems like a good fit, like, and then go after guys like Julio Jones. I know Julio probably doesn't want to play there, but depending on the right price, we'll see what he wants to do, but I'm just not satisfied. I'm not satisfied with the defense. I'm not satisfied with the offense, and they need some veteran presence, not a C- veteran presence in Laviska Shenault or Marvin Jones. They need they need a reason to play, and there is no reason to play yet.
Yeah, I think so. A couple of things to that is like, one, I feel like the Jacksonville Jaguars literally, they're the reason the market in the NFL is where it's at. They're the reason Devontae Adams was mad. Like they went out and gave too much money to people that did not deserve that amount of money, right? So like they fucking changed the overall value of receivers and whatever the hell they were paying. So it was one of those like splurging, like, hey, you just got a $10,000 spending spree, so go out and have fun with it. And that's what they did, is they just literally like looked at like the first thing they saw and they bought it. And the one, we talked about the Jags this offseason in the sense that like I really wanted them to get a offensive lineman that they could use as like the veteran, the presence to teach the young guys. And Brandon Scherf is that. So like I feel like that's the one silver lining. But the only bad thing about that is he plays guard, and like guards don't have as much influence as tackles. And so like, is there enough value there? And so like the defense, it seems like it got a little bit better, but like you said, Shisho, you literally drafted Trevor Lawrence as like the next coming of Peyton Manning, and the best you could fucking give him was Zay Jones and Christian Kirk. Like, you got to be fucking kidding me. I'm honestly beginning to think that it's probably the fact that nobody wants to go to Jacksonville, because Allen Robinson's, like, all those guys crossed my mind, and I'm like, why? Like, they had so much money. I'm sure they called up these good guys. They were just like, you know what? Why the hell would I come play for the Jaguars? So I don't know if that's what it is, but with how much money they had, it's crazy that it seemed like they signed half of the free agent market, and you're still like, oh my God, like I'm still not happy with anything they've done. So
there is one reason to be happy this upcoming year though, and it's their running back duo. We finally get to see them run together, and that's going to be something fun for fantasy football owners.
Travis Etienne and James Robinson, right? So that hopefully they don't screw up that situation, because the Jags just have the tendency to screw everything up. But that's at least one sliver of hope. Trevor Lawrence has two solid running backs behind him, and then Evan Ingram. Like, why did that guy get signed there? Why?
If I hear the word Evan Ingram one more time, I might just close this laptop.
I literally think of dropped passes when I hear the word Evan Ingram. Why the hell did the Jags think that was a good weapon to, like, dude, it's just,
I rarely ever regret things in life. Like, there's always a lesson to be learned. I regret everything about Evan Ingram. I wish I never got him. I got him 2 years back to back. That second year hurts more because you're like, you know what? You were because you're injured, and then you just see him drop wide open touchdowns, and it's just like, why?
Yeah, dude. I mean, the Jags, it's hard not to get better because they were 3-14. They signed like 7 guys and they still have 12 draft picks. So it's like naturally you're a shit show if you're not getting better from 3 wins. But like you said, maybe they jump from 3 wins to like 6 or 7 because there's nothing that I've seen so far that's like pushing or moving that needle too far, like far enough to the playoffs. Like it's not even close right now. So
yeah,
go ahead.
No, and the Titans are still pretty much up there. I know they kind of struggled in the playoffs, but the rest of the teams, you don't know what the Colts are going to do. You don't know what the Texans are going to do, but they're not going to, the Jaguars are not easily going to make to the playoffs just because of their division.
Yeah, no, I mean, again, that's a perfect segue. So enough about the Jaguars. Let's jump over to the next team. You mentioned it, Shishot. The Houston Texans are another team in this division that, there's really not much place to go, but up 4-13 last year, 3-3 in the division. Minus 172 point differential. So dude, just like they literally were hiding in this division because the Jags are also in this division, because if they were in their own division, they would be treated as poorly as the Jags. And so, again, the thing with the Texans is the expectations weren't there. They didn't just draft a number 1 overall quarterback, right? They were in purgatory with Deshaun Watson shit. They were starting a random Davis Mills at quarterback, and they literally actually had nobody else on their roster, like of note. So it was just a really, really shitty team overall. And I would say, for them, I just don't know, with $25 million left in cap space and really not very many big free agents left, that they're really going to spend that money because it's really not going to move the needle enough. So are they really just going to depend on 10 draft picks and hope to start to build from the ground up? You think they're looking at maybe drafting a quarterback if they don't think Davis Mills is the answer? But like, how did the Texans get out of this hellhole and like actually build for the future?
Yeah, as of right now, Davis Mills looks like he's a number 1 quarterback there, but I don't think that he's a lock to be the quarterback of the future for the Texans. He had a decent year last year, but if they can go out and they take a look at Malik Willis and they see that he's a quarterback that they can work around, they may even go in and draft him. And so I don't see that Davis Mills as being a guy that's a sure lock. They needed help on the offensive line side. They got Cedric Ogbuyi from the Titans. They get AJ Khan from the Jaguars. And so, that's something that, anytime you can protect the quarterback, that's going to be good. But they've got the number 3 and the number 18 overall draft pick, right? Both in the first round. So I can see them. I think that you're right. They're going to try to use draft picks to go out and just continue this rebuilding. It doesn't seem like any of these key additions that they have added is going to get them over the hump of being, 3rd or 4th place in that division.
Yeah, absolutely. They're just filling in holes to have enough players for that roster spot at this moment. And we talk about rebuilding here and there. We've talked about worse records than the Texans record, but if there's one team that's in rebuild mode and that's like a for sure rebuild mode, it is the Texans. They're not, Brandon Cooks, Nico Collins, Philip Dorsett, Chris Conley are not going to take you to the playoffs. I mean, Brandon Cooks is a good receiver, but come on, like there's a reality to be seen here, and you might sneak by teams like the Chargers last year when they were still confused, but you're not going to sneak by any teams, especially in the AFC. That's a stacked conference, and the Texans have nothing to show for as of right now. It's a defeated franchise. The owners, the coaching staff got a lot of props last year for, doing what they could or what they had. But now it's year 2. Now they got to do better. And like I said, there is no reality here for the Texans outside of a rebuilding mode. And like you mentioned, Shovit, and they have plenty of draft picks to, make sure that happens. Make sure that you get a clear-cut rebuild going. And, they kind of need some sort of energy for this team. They need for the fans to want to come to the games. So we're not going to see a lot of, filling in guard positions. We're not going to see a lot of filling in tackle unless they're really good players. It's time for some big names. It's time to get some flashy wide receivers out here. It's time to get something to root for the average fan, because, it's a synergistic effect. This is the beauty of football. That's why home field advantage is such a big deal. You need to have all the pieces together. And unfortunately, fans are part of the team, whether you like it or not. And for the fans that want to go to the game, for the fans that want to root when their other teams, when the other team's on offense, all of that can only happen if there's a reason to root for the team. And as of right now, losing all your players, nobody's going to skip their Sunday church that they want to go to so bad to go watch David Mills play at this very moment. So, like I said, this team needs some sort of energy. This team does not need to win now. It would be beautiful if they could do that. But, you know, as a fan that's been watching this game for a long time, nothing about this roster screams going 13-4. So it's time to rebuild. It's time to make some good, flashy draft choices. And it's time to think about, is David Mills the future or not?
Davis Mills. Davis Mills is definitely not the future, but I think they're still going to give him the chance because he's earned the opportunity to at least be getting the looks. But yeah, it absolutely would not shock me if they just went out and drafted Malik Willis or drafted another quarterback, because they have 3 and 13. And dude, you're spot on. It's like, if they go out and draft an offensive tackle, like, cool, he's probably the best player on the board, but you're not going to get people in the seats. Like, there's going to be nobody watching Texans games to watch your Evan Neal protect for Davis Mills. Like, that shit's not happening. So I'm absolutely with you. Like, I think at 3, they're going to need to probably look at either Kyle Hamilton, the safety, because he's high flying. Like, he's somebody they can get behind. And that's if Detroit passes up on him at 2. I think he might go 2, but that's a guy I'm looking at. And then at 13, you're looking at probably a receiver. Like, you could look at Drake London, Jamison Williams. Like, there's guys there that will be there. And if they have to reach because they need players for fans to root for, I think, you know, I wouldn't be upset if they reach, because they need it. Like you said, this isn't a classic rebuild where they already have a quarterback or they already have a foundation. Like, they have nobody to root for.
Yeah, they need a culture change. Yeah,
the average fan would not be able to name 5 Texans players right now. Like, I could guarantee you that. So it's just like, dude, they need something. And so absolutely spot on. They're going to have to get somebody that can be like the cornerstone or the next wave of Texans franchise, because JJ Watt's gone. Deshaun Watson, they thought was going to be that, and he wasn't there long enough, and now he's gone. So it's like, they need, who's the next guy? Who's the next guy that's going to be that? So I think that's what they're going to be searching for in the draft this year.
Lastly, I mean, the one thing good for the Houston Texans is the trade with Deshaun Watson. I know you lose Deshaun Watson, but they got a lot back for Deshaun Watson, right? 2022 first round pick, 23 first round pick, 24 first round pick, along with some 3rd, 4th, and for those respective years as well. So they've got some, you know, good draft capital to build on as well. So if you are patient with the Texans, I think that if they make the right decisions, they could be a legitimate team in the next couple of years. But again, going back to the whole rebuild thing, you know, that's where they are.
Yeah, again, and as an expansion franchise, I feel like you can't stay in like hellhole for too long, right? It's like, you earned the right to get that franchise in Houston, and if you can't put people in the seats to watch these games, then like, you know, like, what was all that for? And so, yeah, they're on some sort of a leash here right now, where they need something to get fans excited about.
Where's Sauce supposed to go? What draft pick is he
projected? Dude, it's honestly all over the place. Like, I've seen him go as high as like 5, and then I see him drop as low as like 18. But between Sauce, Stingley, and McDuffie, I think those 3 corners can go, you know, they could go all 3 at the same time or between the first 20 picks. But yeah, that wouldn't be a bad pick for them. I mean, again, that's a guy that you can get behind and root for. But again, as a cornerback, it's still just slightly difficult to be that unless you're fucking Jalen Ramsey or like Darrelle Revis. But I don't know. Again, it's the good thing is, it's really, really hard to be worse than you were last year. I think that's the one good thing, is it's really, really hard to do that. So just give fans hope, give them something to look forward to, give them a reason to get to the games, because I think right now, yeah, like you said, I feel like a lot of Texans fans are just not really giving a shit about their team. Let's jump over to the next scene. There is a new sheriff in town in Indianapolis. The Colts have traded for Matt Ryan, who is 37 years old, maybe now. Like, he's pretty damn old. They got rid of Carson Wentz after 1 season, after signing him to that big contract. And they had seen enough. They had had enough. His erratic play is kind of the opposite of what Matt Ryan is. So, you know, as much as Matt Ryan has left in the tank, I think it's interesting. I mean, I get it, but you know, how much does it really influence the game and the team as a whole? Like, I don't know much, but you know, they still have obviously Jonathan Taylor to build around. You're looking at a team that was 9-8 last year, so hovering around 500, you know, pretty close to making the playoffs, plus 86 point differential. And that was a year that Jonathan Taylor broke out. And so still with $16 million in cap space here, you're looking at a team that has really, really not done much in the offseason. They've lost some guys, but they traded for Matt Ryan, they traded away Carson Wentz, and then they re-signed Mo Alley Cox. And outside of that, they've done absolutely nothing. So I'm trying to wrap my head around what the Colts plan is heading into the next season. Like when you trade for Matt Ryan at this stage in his career, are you trying to compete? Are you trying to compete while Jonathan Taylor's still on a rookie scale contract? Like what is the end goal here? What are the Colts doing?
Yeah, so PFF has this interesting stat for it's called WAR, which is winnings above replacement. And they actually went up 0.65 points by getting Matt Ryan. And then also the defensive end, Yannick Ngakoue from the Raiders, who had 10 sacks last year, that definitely put them up. So I think that all in all, they're going to be a team that wins 10 games instead of 9 games. Like they went up by 1 game for next year. And that 1 game is why they couldn't make it to the playoffs last year, right? So I think that getting rid of Carson Wentz and adding Matt Ryan, just based on that stat, is a good move for the Colts. But they're losing a couple. They need help in the receiver core. They're losing Zach Pascal, which I don't know if he's that good anyways. But they're losing Marlon Mack when they have Jonathan Taylor, which is okay too. And they lost Xavier Rhodes. So that's a cornerback need. You've got needs in the cornerback position. So it seems like they aren't doing much in free agency, but I feel like they're front office thinks that with those 2 additions that they have, that it will be a good enough team for them to make the playoffs next year, given the 7-team format in the playoffs now.
I agree. Matt Ryan is like you said, Sweetheart, Matt Ryan is everything Carson Wentz wishes he was. And that is a patient pocket quarterback, right? He just way too erratic, way too many errors. And those errors are why they didn't get to where they needed to get to. And Matt Ryan doesn't make those errors, especially when he has protection. And the Colts are pretty good. They're good. They have a good offensive line system. So, Matt Ryan coming in here and doing his best Tom Brady impression could work. However, it is a run-first team, and they do have probably the best running back in football, so that helps Matt Ryan even more. He doesn't have to just chug it out there. He doesn't have to, use his arm until it turns into a noodle. He can do what he does, do it more efficiently, and have the best running back in football. So this definitely is a big improvement from the Carson Wentz situation. I had high hopes for Carson Wentz just from a culture change perspective, but he was still the same Carson Wentz. Now, there is some news as of 12 hours ago that Darius Leonard is trying to reach out to Julio Jones. And I think that would solve a lot of their problems as well. I don't see why Julio Jones wouldn't want to come there and play with his old teammate, Matt Ryan. I don't see why they wouldn't want him there because he would be a great opposite side of Pittman, another big, tall receiver. Having 2 of those guys and signing him maybe a rookie playing the slot could do wonders. They decided to re-sign Mo Alley Cox out of all the people that they could have done that to. But I'm sure they got him for pretty cheap, and he's a good red zone threat, if anything. So they're making moves, as in the right moves. They're just not making enough of them, and that is the name of the game here. It's the offseason. You have to try to sign as many good talents as you think they're going to be, and you got to start eliminating them through training camp, right? That's the goal. You got to try to find the best available at this time. And they're not even shooting for that. They're not even going for that. And they have 16 million of cap space. So it's like, are they waiting to make a big move here? Are they waiting for this Julio Jones things to kind of, settle down, or what are they waiting for? I don't know, but the draft is approaching soon. So they need to make some decisions before we get to that point.
Yeah. I think there are too many holes. Like I think between last year's team that, Jonathan Taylor had a historic year and they won 9 games, right? Yeah. Carson Wentz is erratic. Yeah. Yada, yada, yada. But like there's still a lack of explosiveness when like you take away the running game. Right. And that's why we need receivers, but you're losing T.Y. Hilton, you're losing Zach Pascal, and all you have is Pittman. It'd be nice to get like a Julio with the Matt Ryan connection, but how healthy is Julio Jones going to be next year? And so
4 games.
Exactly. And so it's just, I don't know. And even if you look out over on the defensive side of the ball, they lost their safety and George Odom. He went to the 49ers. Rhodes is a free agent. And so I don't know, like with no moves, 7 draft picks, no first round draft picks, how I don't know. Like, I think it's almost like, to me, Matt Ryan went to a shittier Falcons, like not last year's Falcons, because they were goddamn awful, but like the competitive Falcons of the last like 5-7 years, it's almost like a shittier version of that, like minus Jonathan Taylor. He's like the best thing about the team, right? But it's like, I don't know, like who's Matt Ryan going to throw to next year? I mean, Michael Pitt, we saw this year how good Michael Pittman could be, but like he needs help. They lost their receivers. They have money, but the only people left in free agency are like old veterans that, I don't know, like, do they want to play with another old quarterback?
Here's the one bright side with having this Matt Ryan thing, and it kind of changes the culture a little bit, is that worrying about accuracy is not a thing with Matt Ryan, right? Like, you know that whether it's a young receiver, whether it's a old receiver, he's going to be on target. So I think that's something that they were missing. That's something that they really, really needed badly. They couldn't come from behind because Carson Wentz, he's just crazy with his throws. Pittman like bailed him out a couple times and underthrows and all that stuff. So having Matt Ryan kind of helps there. But you're right, there is not enough talent on this offense. I don't know why a lot of people think that, he's got all the weapons there. I think I was talking to Dheeraj the other day about this, and he's like, Matt Ryan's going to eat. I'm like, he's going to do better, but I don't know about eating,
Yeah.
And the other thing that kind of helps out the Colts by getting Matt Ryan is they are in a division where they have to deal with Texans and the Jaguars, right?
Yeah.
So all they have to do is just as good as the Titans. That's about it. And the Titans, they've had their last 2-3 years, they've been reigning all over this playoffs. They just can't execute. And did they get better? We'll talk about them here shortly. But competing with one team always kind of makes things a little bit easier, So as long as they do a pretty good job on the draft and kind of just run it back, another 9-8 season, 10-7 season may be just enough to win the division. Now, if you're going to try to make the playoffs, good luck outside of winning the division because this AFC stacked. So it looks like to me, this is another season where they're just barely going to be better than the Texans and the Jaguars. And then they're just barely going to be worse than the Titans and maybe miss out on the playoffs. But we'll see if anything changes with this Matt Ryan thing.
They don't have a first round pick either. So draft is going to be very thin. They have the 42nd pick in the second round, which is in the second round. But I've read somewhere that they could actually go out and get quarterback Desmond Ritter. Is it Ritter? I thought it was Ritter actually.
It's Ritter.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it is Ritter. Yeah, you're right. I put a space on his name and I was like, oh wait, it is Ritter. But he went 44-6 with the Cincinnati Bearcats, right? This guy he's fast, runs a 4.5 speed. So while they're kind of in this period with Matt Ryan where they're just putting him as a placeholder, Ritter is someone that can kind of train, and learn from Matt Ryan, because one of the things he doesn't do well is following his progressions. So that could be a strategy that they go for. But they've gotten, you're right. They need help in the wide receiving core as well. So, I don't know what they'll do there, but something to look into.
Yeah, again, they're just kind of handicapped in the sense that, like you said, if they draft, let's say their 42nd pick is their first pick in the draft and they take Desmond Ritter, that means that they basically are planning for the future, which means like right now, this is the best that they're necessarily going to roll out, right? Because then their next draft pick is going to be a third rounder. So everything beyond that third rounder, you're probably not expecting to be a day one starter heading into 2022. So it's like, dude, if they're not putting enough pieces around Matt Ryan, it's almost like they just made that trade because they knew that they needed a quarterback and they knew that the Falcons are going to eat his cap. So it's just like, you know what? He's a placeholder. He's a quarterback that we can at least get so we don't have no quarterback. And at the end of the day, we can move forward. So yeah, I mean, if they draft Desmond Ritter, it's very, very evident that they're basically moving into another direction or heading to the future. But then at that scope, if he's a quarterback that needs a year to sit under Matt Ryan or 2 years to sit under Matt Ryan, then you start to waste Jonathan Taylor's prime, and running backs primes are so slow or like so small. And so that window constantly closes, even though right now it seems like it's getting bigger, but that's the life of a running back. So I don't know, man, I don't know where the priorities lie for them. So it just seems like because of the uncertainty, 9-8 seems like exactly where they're going to end up next year too, which is slightly going to be better than the Jags and Texans, like you said, showed slightly worse than the Titans, and they're just not going to make the playoffs. So, I mean, if they're cool just running it back because they were able to get rid of the fucking debacle that is Carson Wentz, I get it, because they did sign him to an extension and they were probably like, what the fuck are we going to do when they saw how last year ended? But other than that, again, unless Jonathan Taylor takes another leap, which would be goddamn insane, I think this team is destined for 500 football. But Shisho, you mentioned the Titans. Let's end it with the Titan of the division, if you will. The Tennessee Titans. Sorry, we couldn't get you on here, Riaz. I apologize. The Tennessee Titans, who were 12-5 last year, after a weird year, still ending up number one in the AFC. Derrick Henry has an insane year and then gets hurt. So you're heading into the playoffs without Derrick Henry. They stumbled a little bit, still ended up getting the number one seed, 5-1 divisional record, plus 65 point differential for a team that won 12 games. You already see that disconnect there. Like, how did they win 12 games, but they were only plus 65 point differential? You're looking at a team that doesn't have a ton of cap space, present day. They're $3.2 million in the hole, and that starts with Ryan Tannehill, guys. I mean, I preach about quarterbacks and overpay because of the whole Kirk Cousins situation. But God, if I was a Titans fan and I'm staring at this $38.6 million cap hit from a guy like Ryan Tannehill, I'd be losing my mind, because just think about the roster around Ryan Tannehill. Think about Derrick Henry. He doesn't need a good quarterback because you hand him the ball 45 times. Think about AJ Brown. He doesn't need a good quarterback. He just needs somebody to throw the ball up to him, right? So think about the fact that you could probably get a Malik Willis and save $38 million in cap space and then build around that team, because Ryan Tannehill is the epitome of a guy that doesn't get asked to do too much because Derrick Henry runs the ball 40 plus times, just has to make the throws when they're there. And, you can probably find a placeholder for that doesn't take up this much cap space, because now they didn't sign very many people. The only guy they actually signed was Austin Hooper. They re-signed Harold Landry and Ben Jones, but Austin Hooper is who they went out and got. So it's basically the same team running it back, minus, a guard, Julio Jones, and they lost Janoris Jenkins. So it's like, you have 7 draft picks this year. How do you compartmentalize the fact that you're paying Ryan Tannehill so much money, yet he seems like he's not going to be the guy that gets you the next step?
Yeah, they don't forget they also did sign Robert Woods as well. So
they traded for Woods. Traded for Woods.
Traded for Woods. So they lose Julio Jones, but they now have Robert Woods and AJ Brown, and so that the team that we thought that they could be last year with the offensive power, maybe this is the year that Tannehill, now with Woods and AJ Brown, has a better year than he did last year. But they need some help too on the offensive line. Tannehill was sacked 47 times, which is second most in the NFL. So I'm expecting them to do that through the draft, I guess. They lost Anthony Firkser, who's their tight end, the guy that they went away from, or they chose instead of Jonnu Smith. And now looks like Anthony Firkser is not going to be the guy that gets the number one tight end. So they need to go out and get a tight end as well.
Unless it's Austin Hooper, who they signed.
Yeah. Unless it's Austin Hooper, but I'm not sure Austin Hooper's really proven anything. I know he was with the Browns, and with Baker Mayfield, and maybe that's probably the reason why Austin Hooper didn't shine as much as he could have. And with Tannehill, now you may have that, but maybe someone else just to go. Like, it seems like NFL teams need 2 tight ends. Just as like the packages that the personnel that they're running in, you need 2 tight ends. And I'm not sure if Austin Hooper as tight end number 1 could be that guy for you. So look for them to grab someone in the draft in that sense. But you still have Derrick Henry, you got AJ Brown, and now you got Robert Woods. That offense is still could be pretty good next year.
Dude, I am terrified that the Titans are going to fall apart. I am terrified because Derrick Henry's coming off of a big injury. AJ Brown is already injury prone, and you just got Robert Woods, who's coming off
also injury.
So you're like, and you got these guys getting murdered. I mean, and then you got Ryan Tannehill getting murdered by the lack of offensive line play, and he's already not good on top of that. This is why the point differential is plus 65. Like they barely have their squad on the field at all times, and they're not adding people that are very reliable. There's big names here, but injury is crucial. Can they survive that same thing as last year? The chances are probably not. If this happens again, their defense isn't even really that good. They were just clutch in making big plays at the right time. And that's how they ended up getting the number 1 seed. If they were to run this back, there's probably there's no way they can replicate this.
They absolutely overperformed. They overachieved by far last year. Yes.
And we can all tell, we watch these games. We can tell this was just like a God-given type of a thing. And they just got really lucky. I hate using that word because there's always a reason behind everything, but they really got lucky. All these things went wrong their way and they still had the number 1 seed. Like, what? In what world does that make sense when none of the pieces were really like game changers that were on the field. So, you know, you had that opportunity. You had the opportunity last year. You had opportunity the year before. Are you going to keep getting opportunities when your cap space is minus 3.2? Are you going to keep getting opportunities when you only have 7 draft picks this year? So, you know, it's one of those situations. This is a really sad type of situation to be in because you've seen what the possibilities are like. You just got a Julio Jones. You just got, you know, they had like 3 of the best weapons on one team. So it's like, you had the good times. You couldn't do anything with it. And now you're stuck with Ryan Tannehill's 38.6. There's only like 3 quarterbacks that are worse than Ryan Tannehill that are starting, in my opinion. You know what I mean? Like, so he's not somebody that I want my team behind. He hasn't proven to be neither accurate or, you know, he's not a big playmaking guy either. So it's like, when you don't have the accuracy, you don't have the playmaking ability, you're just back there and you're going to get sacked. So, and we've seen that happen as well. So I'm just a little worried about the Titans. And I think this is why the Colts are probably not like, you know, it's not like the AFC East where teams are just going crazy, or no, the AFC West, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Where teams are going crazy to one up the other one because nothing is happening in this division. Nothing big to where the other teams are afraid. You got 2 lackluster teams paying a bunch of C- players and 1 rebuilding, 1 stagnant, and then 1 in limbo with all these injured players on the team now. So it's like, same thing's going to happen with this division next year, maybe identical, and just everybody gets a little bit worse because they're going to get killed by other divisions. So, I mean, that's the outlook as of now. Again, that's why I mentioned, you know, cap space is something you really can't bank on because you can always work around cap space. But when you're minus 3.2 and you haven't really made like game changing decisions, I don't know what you're going to do. They're 1 injury away from crumbling. So good luck to the Titans, but the Colts aren't that far behind them to try to take that number 1 spot now.
Yeah, I mean, the cap space thing is like the people say it's a myth. Obviously, like there's relevance to it, but they're also like I'm sitting here wondering why a guy like Ryan Tannehill is not restructuring his contract. Like what they're in the hole. He doesn't move the needle in the quarterback position enough, one, to even warrant a fraction of that payment. But like if the dude wants to be competitive and this team's window to win is now and they need to free up money to sign other guys, even sign their draft picks, because right now they don't even have that money. I have to assume a Ryan Tannehill restructure is going to happen before the draft or before the season starts, because there's really no other way. There's no other way they can even afford to sign their draft picks. And dude, he just, again, you're dealing with best case scenario, Derrick Henry, Robert Woods, and AJ Brown all have like a completely healthy season. Then maybe the sky's the limit for the offense, but then Ryan Tannehill still kind of holds them back because the offensive line sucks. So he doesn't get enough time to throw them the football. And so there's not enough money to help fix the problems that the Tennessee Titans have. And like we said, for the last 2, 3, 4 years, it seemed like they just were the definition of a team that was overachieving. And so, yeah, at some point it's going to have to come back down to reality. And yeah, this could be a division that a 9-win team wins next year. So that wouldn't surprise me either, but I don't know. Their only draft pick in the first round is the 26th overall pick. So
you're not fixing your offensive line there, right?
Yeah.
You get a game-changing offensive lineman at that spot. So I don't know, man. This is one of the hardest decisions I've had to make on deciding how the team's going to look like next year. They're the number 1 seed, and I highly, highly doubt they're going to redo this whole number 1 seed thing next year.
Nah, it's going to be very, very tough. I'll be interested to kind of get Riaz's take on the Tannehill situation, because I don't see another way for them to get out of this purgatory without Tannehill restructuring. So, who knows? Obviously, again, Robert Woods, when healthy, is a great receiver. He's a great receiver. He's different than Julio Jones, who they had last year, right? So if Robert Woods is healthy, he has a different dynamic and kind of meshes with AJ Brown better than Julio Jones did, in my opinion. So sure. I think that makes a ton of sense. I actually do like Austin Hooper. Like, I think even with Baker as the quarterback, he was good and he was productive. And I think if given the opportunity, and the Titans love their tight ends, like with Jonnu Smith and crap, and they love like giving them opportunities and looks, I think Austin Hooper has a chance to be a really nice weapon for them. But again, it just goes back to, are they going to just assume that they're going to draft first, second, and third round linemen and hope that they're all starters in day one? Or are they going to figure out a way to free up some cap space and at least go out and get like 1 or 2 free agent linemen, because Tannehill can't be sacked as many times as he was sacked last year, and they expect to repeat a 12-5 performance in a number 1 seed. I just don't think that's going to happen. That's it. that is the AFC and the NFC South divisions. Not as flashy as the AFC West, like you mentioned, with all their high flying acquisitions. But again, it's interesting because we talked about 8 teams, and it seems like right now, the AFC South is not really, like, none of these teams to me are competitive with the AFC West anymore. Like, I think all 4 of the AFC West teams are better than any of these teams. Like, the Titans would be 5th in the AFC West right now to me. So you're looking at an AFC South team that like could be an NFC East from 5 years ago. And then you look at an NFC South where it's Tom Brady and the Bucs, and then everybody else sucks. So it's very, like, the NFL next year could again be like 5 teams competing and everybody else sucks. Like, and obviously that can't happen because people have to play each other. But is that going to make for maybe a more wild ending than kind of what we're predicting in our minds? Because Brady gets hurt, and then all of a sudden you have like Malik Willis gets drafted at 12 and somehow is the next heir apparent to Mahomes. Like, you're going to need to see something like that next year to change the overall landscape. Otherwise, like, every team, like, you can see on paper what teams are really, really bad and suck, and like the handful of teams that are actually good.
Yeah, I mean, outside of Tom Brady, there's not any other quarterback that you can kind of bet your bank on, right? I mean,
Bet your bottom dollar.
Bet your bottom dollar on. That's right. But Matt Ryan and Tannehill are probably they're just like 2 levels down from where Tom Brady is. And when you compare it to the AFC West, where you've got Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, even put Derek Carr in the mix now that he's got Devontae Adams, right? Yep. Russell Wilson, every team there, it has legitimate quarterbacks. So it's just apples and oranges comparing those 2 divisions.
Is there, so with the extra playoff team now, there's a chance the entire AFC West can make the playoffs.
Yep.
Right. You have one team win the division, and then they have the 3 wildcard spots.
Yep.
Dude, I mean,
wow.
In reality, think about that. The Bills will probably win their division. The Patriots, honestly, obviously we'll talk about all these teams, but they might be due for a regression. And then you have the Dolphins and the Jets. So it's like, dude, it's just so top heavy right now. It seems like, I don't know, like 1 or 2 teams are going to have to be Cinderella teams that draft insanely well and hit a bunch of home runs, or again, we're going to see a Tom Brady Super Bowl again.
And then there's certain things like curses that are very much present, whether we believe it or not. So the teams like the Chargers, the Raiders, they could have all the stacked things you want. They could do this, they could do that. But as far as history says, things don't look good for those teams ever. So we'll see if they can come out of those holes. We'll see if the teams like the Jets with all this money and whatnot, we'll see if a team like the Dolphins with this culture change, it'll be exciting. The AFC is definitely more exciting than what the NFC has to offer this year. I don't know what's going to happen in the NFC, but this is going to be a fun year. Cause again, this is the beauty of football. There's 32 different teams. There's 32 different quarterbacks. There's so many different variables, and anything can happen.
Yeah. And what's your best asset in any sport ever?
Availability.
That is correct. And that's one thing that we can't plan for. So we sit here and tell you that the Rams and the Bucs are going to win, are going to be the best teams. And then you see Matt Stafford and Tom Brady get hurt. And then it's literally a circus. So, that again is the beauty of the NFL. I don't know if I talked about any of the other news that happened at the beginning of this episode. Why am I drawing a blank? I don't think I did. Did I?
You have not.
Oh, I have not.
You have not talked about any of them.
Any of the breaking news. Okay. We just jumped right into it because we got a little bit horny because we were so excited about the guest. No, that makes sense. There were some news around the NFL between the last episode and this episode that we haven't even talked about. So let's just touch on it real quickly and then we'll wrap things up. So breaking news around the NFL. Deshaun Watson is now a Cleveland Brown. I know we talked about it throughout the episode, but huge haul for the Texans to get into rebuild mode. I mean, again, I think that was best case scenario for Houston because you knew Watson was going to stick around. I didn't know who had the leverage. I didn't know how much teams wanted him or how much they were willing to give up with the allegations. And then that kind of played out in Houston's favor because then his stock went back to skyrocketing. And then you get 3 first-round picks, a handful of second rounds, a handful of third rounds. And so Cleveland gets the one quarterback away from being competitive because that offense is insane. That line is crazy. You got Nick Chubb. And then during this recording, I got a notification 46 minutes ago, Odell Beckham Jr. is open to a Browns return. So let's not put Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham out of the cards to reunite there now that it's Deshaun Watson and not Baker Mayfield. So that's interesting and super exciting for Cleveland, for Deshaun. I guess the biggest question mark is what's the NFL going to do about the whole Deshaun Watson situation? Is he going to have 6 to 8 game suspension, or is that going to prevent him, from playing games? I guess that remains to be seen, but
I mean, Baker still is on the roster, right? I'm not tripping.
Yeah, he's still on the roster,
but
he can't be. It's impossible.
So Odell's dad's going to have to watch Odell getting balls thrown from Baker Mayfield for at least like 6 games.
Dude, I'm very, very I'll make a prediction that there's no way Baker Mayfield's on the Browns come the week 1. I think at this point, he's not good enough, right? They already have a quarterback to replace him with. And he openly, did you see the letter that he put out before any reports even came out? He just as if he's retired. It was made such a big deal. And I'm like, dude, you didn't even get traded 1, 2, you don't even know what's happening. And whenever the Browns found out that they were out of the running for Deshaun Watson, they tried to backtrack and say oh, Baker's still our future. There's no way that relationship is not completely axed now. He's gone. He's definitely going to be somewhere else. But, I don't know. Cleveland's all of a sudden attractive again, because when you have a quarterback like Deshaun Watson, here come all the freaking receivers out of the woodworks being like, hey, no, we'll come play for Cleveland, when in reality, that franchise was where people go to die. So, again, that's huge for the city of Cleveland, for Browns fans. I think they thought Baker was the future, and Deshaun Watson has an actual opportunity to be the future. He is the future if he gets to play. So that's super exciting for them. But couple of other things we talked about it. Matt Ryan got traded to the Colts. Good for them, however they want to handle that. 3 different free agents that were signed. Teron Armstead was the top free agent on the market, the best left tackle, probably one of the best left tackles in the NFL, if not the best. And he goes to the Dolphins, somebody that Tua that can protect Tua's blind side, somebody that can be a leader on a very, very young team.
Blind side because he's left-handed.
Interesting. I guess that's true. But we talked about how the Dolphins needed somebody on the line that could be a leader, that could be a veteran. And this is, again, a match made in heaven. He gets the bag. So he's gone. Shovit Juju Smith, no longer a Chief, no longer a Steeler because he's a Chief. Yeah. I don't know if really you care much. Anything you want to say about that?
No, I just wish him the best. Juju Smith, he whenever Antonio Brown wasn't there that 1 year and he was a wide receiver 1, he did his best. And then last year he got injured. So, he's always going to be a Steeler. And, but in my heart, because he did a lot for us when we didn't have any other receivers. So no, I wish him the best, but I think the Chiefs definitely needed some help on the receiving core, right? That's what we talked about, where all they have is Tyreek Hill and then some, guys like Robinson and Pringle. And so hopefully Juju Smith can fill that void that those other receivers were not able to provide.
Yeah. And hopefully Juju Smith can make a bunch of TikToks with Jackson Mahomes.
He's probably going to do some. Yeah, for sure.
That to me is a better pairing than Juju on the Chiefs. I think Juju getting to meet Jackson Mahomes and their love for TikTok can, be very hand in hand there. And then the last thing, I wanted to save the best for last year show. The Vikings finally made a move. Talk to me.
They did. They made one of the best moves. I think this was a top 15 free agent available. Something in Green Bay didn't sit right. Something in the Ravens land didn't sit right. He had multiple opportunities to go to both those teams, and he decided to come to the Minnesota Vikings. And he seems pretty happy. He's got some pictures in front of the stadium pointing towards his, he's excited. He's already tweeted one of the most famous sayings in Vikings history: "Meet at the quarterback." That is what they used to say during the Purple People Eaters times in the 70s. When that was considered, well, actually, it's still probably the best defensive line to ever exist. So, he's already excited. He gets to play with Danielle Hunter, who is probably top 5 defensive ends when healthy, top 2 when really healthy. So, things are looking good. Looks like they're trying to win now. And, with a young core in the staff, as well as a bunch of picks that are probably going to go towards the defense. And they kept Harrison Smith, and some of these key pieces are still there. This does not look like a team that is regressing. This team improved, and Za'Darius Smith just makes it that much more exciting. And I'm sure he wants to get Aaron Rodgers to the ground.
Dude, we have Danielle Hunter and Za'Darius Smith now rushing the quarterback. Again, you talked about the AFC West and how they had duos, and how having duos that can pass rush the way these two can.
It's everything.
For stats people, in 2019, the last time, again, Danielle Hunter played 7 games in 2 years. So injuries aside, let's assume both these guys are as healthy as they can be. 2019, these were the top 2 players in the entire NFL to lead in pressures to the quarterback. And so you're having those 2 guys on the same fucking team opposite each other. And then we signed Jordan Hicks here as a linebacker. We got Harrison Phillips as our defensive tackle. So, dude, all of a sudden our front seven looks pretty fucking impressive, right? And so now if you go out and draft a cornerback and maybe you re-sign like a Patrick Peterson or something, that defense all of a sudden looks very, very formidable.
I mean, the offense is going to drop 30 points, right? So the defense just doesn't have to allow 31 points. And with this defense on the field, looking like we're going to allow 21 to 22 points, that looks like a pretty good deal.
Yeah, that seems like a recipe for more wins than losses. So let's hope that's what transpires. But finally, some hope for us Vikings fans, the biggest move that they made in the offseason against Darius Smith. And it's nice that anytime a Green Bay Packer comes to play for the Vikings. So that's always an added bonus. Usually we've had success when that happens. Ryan Longwell, Brett Favre,
no Packer comes here and does bad. So
yeah. So I'm really, really looking forward to that. But that's kind of the news around the NFL. Anything else I missed or anything else you guys got for us?
No, we mentioned the Fournette thing earlier, but outside of that, no, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, CMC restructured his contract, $5.5 million. I don't know what the Panthers are going to do with that, but yeah, again, that's episode 50, NFC and the AFC South. Thank you so much for Jake and Dheeraj for hopping on this episode. A lot of great insight from the lens and the minds of actual fans of these teams. If anything else, you learn from a different perspective, whether it's emotional, not emotional, whatever the case may be, but appreciate both of their insights. If anybody else during the time we talk about your team wants to hop on, certainly let us know. We're more than open to have you on and hear what you have to say about your team. Again, another episode of The Only Playbook in the works, episode 50, guys. This shit just keeps moving fast. I can't keep up. I mean, shit, we're going to be at episode 100 pretty soon, and there's going to have to be something pretty special done there. But thank you so much for everybody that listened to this episode. Again, we're The Only Playbook. See you when we see you.